Hello and welcome to the big CAS quiz of the year. It is time for you to test your knowledge on all things Castleford Tigers and a little bit of general rugby league as well. I hope you're well, hope you're enjoying your festive period, and I hope that for one afternoon during that Christmas period, it might be Christmas Day, it might be Boxing Day, it might be that weird period we've got between Christmas and New Year. I do hope this quiz can help tide you over a little bit and cure some of that boredom which you might have. So get together, get your family around, get your friends around, get a brew on, crack a beer, whatever it might be. Get some pens and paper, or maybe just a notes page on your phone. Let's be honest, it's 2025. And let's get into it. We've got 25 questions to go through. We've got 5 rounds, each with 5 questions apiece. Hopefully you are watching this on YouTube. You may have headed to Spotify or your usual kind of podcast platform for this week's upload, and you'll have been directed right here to the COYFCast YouTube channel. While you're here, do hit subscribe, give me a like as well, comment if you possibly can. If you subscribe, I promise there will be extra content in 2026 on the COYFCast YouTube. It's not going to be every episode, but every few weeks or so, hopefully once a month at minimum, there'll be some kind of YouTube content from the COYFCast right here. So subscribe so you don't miss that. But here we go. I hope you're ready. Pause if you're not. Make sure you've got all the essentials. Make sure you've got your pen, your paper, your drink. Make sure you've got a little bit of time to crack on. We're going to go through all 25 questions right now, and then we'll wheel back and do the answers. If you're ready, I'm ready. We'll get into round 1 and we'll get into it. Okay, let's get to it. And the very first round is on general CAS knowledge. 5 questions on general Castleford Tigers knowledge. And we'll kick off with question 1, a nice easy one. Most people should get this. In which year did Castleford win the Challenge Cup for the very first time? A quick caveat before question 2. All stats, all data has been sourced from rugbyleagueproject.com, which is a very, very good resource, a very good database for all your stat-based rugby league needs. And in saying that, if anything's wrong, don't blame me. Blame rugbyleagueproject.com, but I'm pretty sure they're on the money with most things. So question 2, which player has made the most Super League appearances for Castleford? Question 3, CBR have been major kit sponsors for 12 years now, but before them, who was the last company to feature on the front of Castleford shirts back in 2013? Question 4, and I'll be kind, you can have a point for each of these correct answers. Name the 2 clubs Castleford have defeated in National League playoff finals. And question 5, who was the oldest member of Castleford's 2017 Super League squad? On to round 2, and this is a look back on the Tigers in 2025 with a slightly positive spin on the year that was. Question 6, who was Castleford's top try scorer in all competitions in 2025? Question 7, a point for each. Which 2 players were ever present for CAS in 2025? Question 8, who did CAS play in Danny Maguire's final game in charge of the club? Question 9, a nice easy one. I'm judging you a little bit if you don't get this one. Who scored Castleford's final try of the 2025 season? And your clue is it's rather memorable. And question 10, again, a point for each correct answer. You can really rack up the points over the next few questions. Name the 5 teams that the Tigers beat in the Super League in 2025. Round 3 is a general look back on the 2025 Super League in its entirety, not just focusing on CAS. And we'll kick off with question 11. Which player scored the first point of the 2025 Super League season? Question 12. Who was Super League's top try scorer in 2025? Question 13, a point for each correct answer. Champions Hull KR, they had 4 players in the Super League Dream Team. Can you name all 4? Question 14, and a bit of a fun one. St Helens pulled off one of the great last-minute tries in the playoff eliminator against Leeds. I'm sure you remember the try. From the tap, how many times was the ball passed before Shane Wright crossed and scored the try for St Helens in the final moment? And this is tough, so I will give you a point if you're either side of the number. If you're one either side of the answer, you get the point for this, because this is pretty tough. And question 15, who was Super League's top tackler in 2025? And if you can also tell me how many tackles they had, you just win the quiz. So, yeah, have a crack, why not? Our penultimate round is Guess the Player. We've got 5 images coming up in the next minute or so. They'll run through fairly quickly, but feel free to pause if you need a little bit of extra time. Do it at your own pace. These are 5 Super League legends, kind of cult heroes, general kind of Super League personalities. It's a zoomed in picture of each of them, not giving it away too easily. All you have to do is tell me who these 5 players are. Okay, we've reached the final round. Round 5, this is Tigers, Teasers, and this is where you can really, really rack up the points. If you've struggled a little bit so far, if you're trailing behind your family members, your friends a little bit at this point, do not fear. Do not fear, because there are more points available in this round than at any other point in the quiz. You're going to get a point for every correct answer in this round, and every single question has got multiple answers. So there's lots of scope, lots of opportunities for points in this round. I'll warn you, this is where you're going to need a little bit more paper. So pause it, make sure you've got enough paper, enough space to write down your answers for the next 5 questions because there's some pretty hefty ones. We kick off with the biggest of the lot. Question 21. I want you to name the top 10 Castleford point scorers of the Super League era. That's the top 10 Castleford point scorers of the Super League era. Any order, try and get 10 names down. You get a point for each of them that you nail from the top 10. Question 22. Can you name the 5 current Super League teams that we have a positive all-time head-to-head record against? So essentially, the 5 teams in Super League right now who we've beaten more times than they've beaten us in our history. Question 23, without looking, because that's no fun. Tell me Castleford's first 5 Super League opponents in 2026. Have you put rounds 1 to 5 in your calendars? Are you aware of who we are playing in the first 5 games of 2026? This is your chance to prove it. Question 24, the penultimate question of the quiz. Name the 4 CAS players that have been given the bench squad numbers for the 2026 season. So that's numbers 14, 15, 16 and 17. All 4, please. But you do get a point for each. And finally, last but not least, question 25. Name the 4 try scorers in arguably Castleford's most famous victory of all time, the 1994 Regal Trophy final. The most iconic of CAS wins. Who were the 4 CAS players who scored a try that day? Okay, if we're all ready, it's time for the answers. So round 1 was general CAS knowledge, and question 1 was, in which year did Castleford win the Challenge Cup for the very first time? The answer was, of course, 1935. Just 9 years into the history of the club, we won the Challenge Cup for the very first time, the first of 4 victories for Castleford. Question 2, which player has made the most Super League appearances for CAS? The answer is Adam Milner, with 281 Super League games for the Tigers. Question 3 was around CBR being major kit sponsors for the last 12 years, and you naming the last company prior to CBR who featured on the front of Castleford shirts. If you cast your mind back to 2013, that company was HelpLink. Question 4 was naming the 2 clubs Castleford have defeated in National League playoff finals. I was very kind. You're going to get a point for each correct answer. It is, of course, Whitehaven in 2005 and the Widnes Vikings in 2007. Question 5, I asked who was the oldest member of Castleford's 2017 Super League squad. It was, of course, the legendary Andy Lynch, who was 37 that season. On to round 2, the Tigers in 2025, and question 6, who was Castleford's top try scorer in all competitions in 2025? With 8 tries, which says a lot, I think. Josh Sim was CAS's top try scorer in 2025 with 8 tries across the Challenge Cup and Super League. Needless to say, we probably need someone to score double figures at least this year. Question 7, which 2 players were ever present for CAS in 2025? Point for each if you got them. That is George Lawler and Dejan Assi, who each played in 28 games for CAS in 2025. Question 8 was who did Castleford play in Danny Maguire's final game in charge? Could you cast your mind back? It was Huddersfield at home, a 30-12 defeat on the 3rd of July. The answer is Huddersfield. And funnily enough, that is the same fixture that did for Andy Last back in 2023 as well. Question 9, dead easy one. Who scored Castleford's final try of the 2025 season? I'm sure you can pretty much visualise it as I'm reading out the question. The answer, of course, with pretty much his final touch of the ball in a CAS shirt, I think, Liam Horn. And question 10, naming the 5 teams the Tigers beat in the 2025 Super League. A point for each correct answer. It is Salford, who we beat twice, the Huddersfield Giants, Hull FC, Warrington Wolves, and of course, Wakefield Trinity. Round 3 focused on the 2025 Super League. Question 11, which player scored the first point of the 2025 Super League season? Feels like a very tricky question when you first hear it, but that point was pretty iconic because it came in the 1-0 victory for Lee Leopards in round 1 over Wigan, and the scorer of the point was a former Tiger, Gareth O'Brien. Question 12, who was Super League's top try scorer in 2025? The answer was Lewis Martin of Hull FC with 25 tries to his credit. Question 13, point for each correct answer. Champions Hull KR, they had 4 players in the dream team, but could you name all of them? The answers were Mikey Lewis, Jez Litton, Dean Hadley, and Petter Hiku. Question 14 referred to St Helens pulling off one of the great last-minute tries in their playoff eliminator against the Rhinos, and I asked you during that play from the tap, how many times was the ball passed before Shane Wright scored the try? Remember, you get a point for being either side of the correct answer, and the answer is 16. There were 16 passes from the point the ball was tapped to Shane Wright scoring the try to knock Leeds out of the playoffs in the most dramatic of fashions. So if you've got 16, of course you get the point, but also if you've got 15 or 17, I'll be kind and give you the point as well, because that is a tricky one. Question 15, who was Super League's top tackler in 2025? The answer was Jared O'Connor of the Leeds Rhinos. And if you got 1,044 tackles, congratulations, you have won. Seriously, if you have, impressive. George Lawler was actually second on that list with 974 out of interest. But yeah, Jared O'Connor of the Leeds Rhinos was Super League's top tackler, should I say, in 2025. Now time for the Guess the Play Around, and I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. They're pretty simple. I think you should get 5, really. 16 was, of course, Sam Tompkins with those distinctive tattoos. 17, Huddersfield legend Leroy Cudjoe. 18, Hull FC's distinctive hooker Danny Houghton. 19, the first of two Warrington players, that was Ben Curry. And 20, the other wire player and also a former Tiger, Joel Onahan. On to the final round then, the Tigers teasers, and question 21, which was naming the top 10 Castleford point scorers of the Super League era. The answers are about to appear on screen. I'll run through them. And here they are. Luke Gale, Danny Orr, Kirk Dixon, Michael Shenton, Joe Westerman with 438 points, which is pretty impressive for a loose forward. Greg Eden, Wayne Bartram and Jamie Ellis both on 350. Darren Rogers with 324 and Danny Richardson with 309 points. You get a point for each of those on the list that you wrote down. Question 22 was naming the 5 current Super League teams that we have a positive all-time head-to-head record against. First one, pretty simple, Toulouse. Played them twice, beat them twice, 2-0 over Toulouse all-time. Second one, a little bit trickier, Lee, the Lee Leopards. The record is 34-33 all-time against Lee. York, next up, 56 wins, 33 defeats against York. The trickiest of the bunch is number 4, the Bradford Bulls. 94 wins over Bradford in our history. They've beaten us 92 times. And of course, Wakefield Trinity. They've beaten us 86 times and we have beaten Wakefield on 107 occasions. Wakefield remain the only team that we have beaten more than 100 times in our history. Question 23 was, without looking, tell me Castleford's first 5 Super League opponents in 2026. I think everyone should get the first one. We have Wigan, we have Toulouse, we have Huddersfield, Leeds and Warrington. Question 24 was naming the 4 Castleford players that have been given the bench squad numbers for the 2026 season, 14, 15, 16 and 17. And the answers are Brock Greason in the 14 shirt, Jack Ashworth will wear 15, Joe Westerman taking the 16 shirt for 2026, and Chris Atkin will wear number 17. And finally, question 25, naming the 4 try scorers in Castleford's 1994 Regal Trophy victory. The answers are Martin Ketteridge, who scored 2 on the day, Tawera Nikau, of course, Grant Anderson, and perhaps most iconic of all, Lee Crooks rounded out the scoring for the Tigers. A point for each of those, a point for every correct answer in round 5. And that will do it. That will do it. Tot up your scores, have some banter between yous if you've done this in a group. I hope you have. Head to social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want. Also in the YouTube comments at COYFCast, let us know how many points you have scored, and hopefully there's some friendly competition between all of you fans. Hopefully some high scores as well. I hope you've enjoyed the quiz. I hope you're enjoying your festive period. We'll be back next week with a normal episode on New Year's Day as we get right into 2026 and a massive year for the Tigers. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. Enjoy the rest of your festive period, and Coif.